how how can we use the API to basically skip the login page? We not only the login page, but if there are any other things that we can skip by using API, that we can use in the code as well. So for example, we have we have written the code here to go to the home page, select a product, then add to the checkout, add to the cart, then go to the checkout and select again the countries and place the order. So that thing like still placing the order, we can also do through API. So they have given one of our API where we can use that particular things to check it out. That also I'll show you. It's just because the previous API that we have used was there we have used only the data. I'll just show you how do we use the header as well, and then we'll continue with the framework. So we'll show you one more API where we'll be using the API to make a call for product uh, ordering of the product, and that ordering product will basically require a headers as well. So we'll see like how do we provide the headers at the time of making any kind of API call, and then we'll continue with the framework. Okay. So here in this application, if you have missed any kind of classes, you can just refer our previous sessions, videos, or recordings. And if you have any kind of question, you can come up with the question. We'll try to explain. Okay. So what in general happens is to place the order, we basically do click. Let's say if you want to just select this particular product, then what do we do is we click on the add to cart. Then we again go to the cart, and then from here we click on checkout, and then again we select let's say a product known as let's say a country known as China, and then click on place order. So as soon as we click on place order, we will see that there will be a one API call happen, and that API call is known as where is that particular API? So there is there is an API call which is happening as a create order. Okay, so if you see this particular, this is the order ID it has generated after basically placing the order. So if you go to the response, we'll see like the same order ID it is trying to display inside a orders ID in terms of response. So if you see this order ID and this order ID is basically same. Okay. So after placing the order, it basically generates such a JSON response, which is having orders, which is inside an array. So we know that in JavaScript, the array declaration will start with the square bracket. Then there is a product ID, which is this one. So product order ID is the ID of this particular product. Is the product order ID, and then message, which says that order placed successfully. Okay. So here, if you see, we have something known as a API, which is create order API, which is request URL. Request method is post, and then there are some kind of request header. Let's say when we go inside this particular application, which is like Postman, and try to call the same API I've just created around 5 minutes ago. So if you see this one, which is like create order, and we also have something known as body for this particular API. So what is the body? If you go to the payload, we can see like this is the body that we have to provide. All these details in terms of like real automation or inside the organization, it will be shared by the development team. in terms of API. Okay, so this is the body that we have to provide. So whenever you see any kind of value inside a payload, that we have to provide as a body. In terms of manual testing of API, we use Postman. So before starting any of the automation, what we can do is we can like take the help of this API, copy paste like the API, or we can directly go to the API call and then right click and copy as a curl. Copy as a curl for CMD, and it will automatically take care of all the authorization, request headers, what is the payload that it requires, and so on. We just want to see like what kind of how do we basically make the call, make the API call? How do we form the API call? How do we know what kind of value it requires? That is why I just want to show you in a like from scratch manner. So here, if you see like this is the API, this is the method, and then there is a body which is this particular one. Okay. So if you see here, just given like this API and the body that we saw over there, which is exactly same China itself. Now, if you click on this send button, it says that invalid. Type is invalid and message is access denied, no token provided. That means it says that, okay, I understood that you want to create an API. You want to create an order using the API. You have also given the complete details, which is like orders. And then this orders can consist of an array, which is having again some values in key format, which is country and product order ID. The product order ID is something that we want to order the product. Okay, so for every product there will be a unique product ID. Okay, so for if you just want to see in terms of whenever we go to the as soon as we move to this particular page, you'll see like some of the ID will be generated. This is the ID for a person who like a user ID, and then see there is a call happen for get all products, and inside this we'll be able to see like for let's say Zara code 3, the product ID is this. Then for Adidas General iPhone 13, the product ID is this. So every product will have a unique ID as well. So that ID we are trying to provide over here. That means we are trying to order some of the products. Now I know that, okay, I know you are trying to place the order. I got the complete value. But for whom, for which user uh, we want to create the or place the order? For which user? That specific things we have to provide over here. That means authorization token that it is generated at the time of login, that we have to provide it over here. And that if we talk about in terms of the application, we can see that inside this, it has given something known as header. So whenever at the time of login, it will generate a token, and going forward, they'll just use it inside a header, which is a request header. Inside the request header, if you see, it has set a token known as authorization, and then it is the same token that it had generated at the time of login. Okay, this token is exactly similar to the token that it had generated at the time of login. Okay, after login, it will generate a token that we know. And going forward in the application, wherever an API will be called, there it has to give some kind of identification that for which user ID we are trying to do some kind of operation inside an application. Okay, so for all the API call, there will be an authorization key set for each and every user. And authorization key will identify as a token. Okay, so this authorization we have to give in terms of like Postman as well as in our code. So where do we have to give this? we can see this is available inside a request header. Currently, we are trying to validate this, but inside the organization, you'll get all these details. So that I have already provided. I'll just check it out and replace with the token. It might have been expired. So we have replaced with the token. And now if you click on send button, now we'll see like it is able to generate a new order with the order ID, product order ID that we have selected that we wanted to order, and then message. So this order is the main order ID, which we generally see after placing the order. Okay. And this is what we are interested in getting from the API. Okay. So let's get to our script, and then we'll see like how do we proceed with this. I will paste. I'll like also share these codes inside the GitHub, so I'll not disturb this class. Let it be like this. I'll create another file, which is web API, let's say part 4 dot spec dot js. And here we'll try to create the uh, like order ID as well. So we'll try to get the order ID as well. Okay. From the previous sessions, we got like we understood that to make a API call, we have to create a new context for API that we have created over here using request. So where did we get this request? We had to import this from Playwright test module. Now to call the API, we have to use this particular API context that we have created. It is again similar, as we know that it is again similar to whenever we use for browser. So for browser, we create a new browser context, and then we create a new page. For API, we basically create an API context, and we do not need to create the new page over here because API does not work with the pages on the browser. Instead, we have to call the methods that we have. So we will be calling on the API context that we have created over here. We know that the method is again a post, and this post method will take a couple of parameters. One is the API that it is trying to create, and second is it can take any values. Like if we have to provide the data, then we have to give the key name as data, and then value that whatever we have. If you want to provide a headers, everything will go inside a curly braces. You can observe over here that everything is going inside a curly braces. Now, if you want to see the headers, then that will also go inside a curly braces, and headers will have like key in format of string and value as well in format of string. Let's say if you want to give the parameters, sometimes whenever we use like, let's see if we have anything. So sometimes what happen is, do not have this, but sometimes in URL as well, there will be some kind of parameter that we'll be using. So when I say some kind of parameters, we can see like this is the value, this is the user ID that we are trying to provide. If you go to the orders, we'll see there will be get order details. So get order details will take a parameters over here, right? So if I just try to show you, copy as a curl, then go to postman, import it, paste it over here. Okay, there is some issue in the API, but if you see here, you'll see like question mark is there, and after that there is some value which is like key and value. So this question mark says that we require a query parameter have to be sent along with the API. So whenever we have to send a query parameter, at that point of time you can basically use a params value that it has given. Like how do we use that? So At that point of time, we have to give a key as param and value inside the curly braces by doing like this. So if you see here, in terms of this particular API, then we have ID equals to this. So we can directly write set ID colon whatever the value it has. Okay, so this is how we basically generate a declare the params. Currently, we do not require in our case, so we'll not do the generation of params. We basically require a couple of things. One is, if you see, are you people following the session?
Yes, Praveen.
Okay. So if you see here, we require a data, which has to be this one. So this, let's say we store it as a const order payload. Let's say order payload. I'm just trying to say it out. And then this we can store it over here. So what are the details we have given? We have given just a country name and then the product that we want to select. Okay. So we know that whenever we have to provide a data, we have to provide in this way, which is like data will be a key and then value, whatever the value that we are trying to provide. The value will be, which is like the body part of the API. So that will go inside whatever we have stored inside an order payload. And now we also require headers, right? So headers, we'll see it will again follow the same condition, which is like key and then colon. And inside the headers, whatever we have to write, that will again go inside a curly braces. So if you see here, uh, if you hover on this header headers will so just the key that it has given, you can just go and post, and it is saying headers head h in a small header. So it says that if you hover on this, it says that headers require a key and value in string format. So whatever the key and value that we have, we can provide here in a string format. That means we have a key which is we have to go to the request header, and then we have a key which is authorization. So we have to provide it like this, and then value. What value we are trying to get it? This one. This one we know that we are already getting in the previous API call, which is token, right? This value is similar to the token value. Okay. If it is different, then what we can do is we can again store this inside a variable, and that variable we can try to use it over here. But we know that in our term, most of the time, in most of the application, this will be exactly similar to whatever it generate at the time of login into the application. Okay. So here also it is the token value that we generate. So we know that the token we are already storing, so we can directly store it over here as a token. Okay. And then, okay, so this requires only two values, which is like data, which we have provided over here, and headers, which is like authorization and then token. Okay. And this is getting closed over here. Right. So these are the value um, that that we provide in the post. Post, whenever we have to use post, we basically have to give some kind of parameters over here. Okay. Now, if we know that this, whenever we make a call for the post, it will respond some kind of value, which is like API response that we are trying to call. So that we can store inside a variable with which say that let's say order response example, and that we are storing inside this. Okay. Um, so we have formed a post API, which is trying to accept first as a URL, which is API, and then some kind of data that we have provided here. One is like the body, and then other is headers. Okay, and now this after calling this particular API, it will throw us some kind of order. And we are basically interested in getting the JSON response because we know that the response that it's generating over here is in a JSON format. In every API response will be a JSON format itself. If you see here, we are not interested in what kind of headers that it is trying to send us, return us. So it is trying to return like 19 types of headers. We can validate like 201, whether the status is 201, created values in terms of 200, okay values, and so on. But currently, we are just trying to validate like whether how do we get the orders from the API value. Okay, so we are also only interested in getting the response in a JSON format. So we can directly use a JSON method on the response that we have received, wherever we are trying to receive the response. It is exactly similar to what we have discussed earlier in terms of this one. So if we just have to get the JSON format of the value, at that point of time, we have to use a JSON method, which will only display us. If you hover on this, it says that. So this is JSON response dot JSON, and okay, let me store it inside order response JSON, which is equals to this. So example, if you hover on this, right? So if you hover on this, it says that it returns the JSON representation of the response body. That means it will return us only those response which is available inside a JSON. And we are interested in getting only those value itself. So that's where we have used like JSON.json over here on this particular value. This we have to write it await over here. Okay, now if you see, if you hover on this, it says that returns the JSON representation of the response body. Okay. And now from this JSON, we are interested in getting the orders. Now let's copy paste and parse this JSON inside a JSON parser. So this is the response that we will be getting. Now we know that in the earlier responses at the time of login into the application, we had only objects. So when I select object, whenever you see a JSON, which is like JavaScript object notation, these are like JSON. It will start with the curly braces and with the curly braces. And inside that, whatever the value that you see, let's say, for example, we have only this. So this is inside an object. In JSON format, everything will be known as object if it is inside a curly braces. Okay. If it is inside an other thing, which is like, let's say, square bracket, JSON will be, most of the time, JSON will consist of the curly braces and then the square bracket. So this square bracket, whenever you see inside a JSON, we know that whenever we have to declare an array in JavaScript, it starts with square bracket. So that means it is saying that this orders is returning us a value in terms of an array. This product ID is also returning us some value in terms of an array. Okay. Why this is generating in terms of array is, let's say if you are trying to if you are trying to place multiple orders, multiple product orders, at that point of time, the order will have a different values, product ID will have a different values, different values. So that is why it is trying to return us a value inside an array. Okay. Earlier, when we had to when we were not having array value, to access the message, we were saying directly object dot message. Now we also have some values which is inside an array, and we have to just get the value as orders over here. So if you see, if you just navigate to orders, how do we navigate is like objects dot orders. What is objects over here? The value, the variable that we have stored over here will be working as an object. So whenever we have to get the orders, we can directly say orders. Okay, JSON, this object dot orders to get the order value or to move till the order value. Now we know that this is trying to display. Our main focus is to get this particular value, which is like orders value. Now from here to here, whenever we have to move, we know that the value is in array. So to get the value from an array, we basically use indexing system, right? We know that this is at first, this is basically at first index, which is 0th index. Now you can also place some other value. Let's say if you say it as Praveen, then you will see like this is going at second place, which is first index. As we know that in array, index start with 0. So it is at 0th place, this one, and it is at first place. If you just click on this, it will give you the notation, which is like index. For this one, it is giving the notation as 1. Okay, we are interested in this, so we can directly use an index over here, which will be 0th index. Okay, and then again, we have to store this inside a variable. So we can say like, let's say order ID equals to this. Understood till now?
Yes.
And then we can place this. Then we can try to just print this order ID. So this is how we basically use an API to create the order. Now we know that we have received the token ID now, and from here we will also be receiving the order ID. And now if you just want to format the code, what we can do is we can simply remove all these lines of code where we are trying to select the product, where we are trying to go to the cart page, checkout page, select the country, and then try to select the order from the place order. So we can directly remove all these lines of code. And now our code, we can also remove these 3, which we have commented earlier. Now our code will look like very simple. This is just a simple 10 lines of code around. Right. So this is how it used to be helpful whenever we have any tool which is also supporting the API. Example like Playwright, which is also supporting the API. So we can directly write these lines of code to get the API, whatever it requires in terms of validation. Here in terms of getting the token to skip the login page. Here in terms of getting the order ID to skip all the other values that we have to go through on the page. Now, one thing we have to know that this is a end-to-end test case, right? In general, whenever we work for any of the organization, we basically have already written some kind of test for the home page. There'll be a lot of other test cases. There'll be test cases for the order page. There'll be test cases for the card page. As like example, if there is no product in the page on the card page, then it should have to display no products in your card and so on. Okay, so for all the pages, we'll be writing like few of the test cases. And to check like the end-to-end order, we basically write in this way, and there, here, we can also, take the help of API, because all these functionality, the card functionality, checkout functionality, order page functionality, we will have already written some kind of test cases in the page of the model. Okay, that's where we can take the help of the API to check the complete end-to-end flow. Now let's try to run this and we'll see whether it is working or not. So this order ID, whatever we have received over here, we are trying to store it itself here itself. So let's make it as a global label so that we can also utilize in the other test cases that we have inside the page. If we just inside write const order ID inside this, the scope will end it after the curly braces end itself. Okay, so let's try to run and then see whether it is working or not. So this order ID, whatever we have received over here, we are trying to use after going to the table to check like the order ID is available, and then we can check whether it is working or not. So this is known as part 4. Let's try to run this and see whether it is able to run successfully or not. So we see like it has generated the token, also generated the order ID over here. It also passed our test case. Sometimes it required to open, sometimes it required to close the Visual Studio Code to see that it is working in a headed mode. So see, it has so the test case was so fast by using the API. It just took around 6 seconds of time. So it has generated the token ID. It also generated the order ID that it has to check. And then it followed the UI part of the thing. We'll run one more time, and then see it will directly launch the API, launch the URL, and will directly move to the home page. So see, it is directly moving to the home page, directly went to the table, validated, and have successfully validated that everything is working fine. How do we know everything is working fine? Because we know that we have given some kind of expect validation. Let's make it as a falsy for now, and then see how the test case will fail here. Just to, I'm just trying to make it fail so that we will understand that everything in terms of our code is working properly. So it has generated the things. It will go to here, go to the orders, and we see that it is saying that fails because it says that I received a true value and we are trying to validate as a false. Okay, that means our code, this was one of a proof that says our code is working properly. Okay, so this is what we have in terms of API. There are a lot of things, but that will go specifically inside the API automation layer. This is how we take the help of the API to basically work in a better way. Okay, this is all about the API that we have in terms of Playwright for the UI automation part. Now, any question till now? Like going forward, we'll start with the framework. So, any question for now?
Praveen, actually, I missed last classes, so just wanted to understand like this API what we are discussing. So this is applicable for all type of web applications or specific types of applications.
No, this will be applicable for all the types of web application that we have.
Okay.
Okay, so probably you can go through the other videos that we had discussed other day. This was one where we are trying to use the where we are trying to store inside a local storage, and then we have another type where we can get the complete details of the storage. So what is meant by storage is whenever you log in into application, it will set some value inside your storage, Windows storage, which is like local storage, and it also can set some kind of cookies value inside the storage. Okay, so some of the organization will have a policy that they can directly set the local storage value as well as they can give some kind of cookie value. So at that point of time, if you see here, we have just stored one particular value, which is a token. If we have like, let's say multiple things, which is like 10 items that we have to give, then again, we have to write a comma, then give inside it whatever the value that we have, like cookies, 10 types of cookies or some other value. Instead of that, what we can do is we can collect all the storage system. Storage system means whatever we see over here. Inside the storage, whatever the value it is having in terms of local storage and cookies, that we can get in a file. So we are saying like take the help of storage state on the context, not on the page level, on the browser context. Use storage state as a method and store inside a file which is known as state, which I have given as state.json. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to log in over here for the first time. Here, if you see in terms of storing the local storage, we do not have to log in. We can directly get the value from the API. But in terms of getting all the values of the storage system, we basically have to log in once in the before all method. We have to log in and then collect all the storage by using storage step. And this will generate a file. Inside file, it will generate all the values that it is having. Currently in this particular application, there is no cookies. That is why it has generated an empty array. But if there are any things that will be generated over here as well. To set all this value at a time, we have to use a file. And that if you see, we have used inside a browser context at the time of creating the browser context. We have said that use this storage state, whatever the state we have, create a new browser context and set these items inside the storage so that it will be able to identify who the user is and who the user we have to validate. And from there on, it will be again the same validations. Okay.
Yeah, Praveen.
Yeah, you can just go through with that particular videos. You'll come to know like how it is working. If you have any question, I'll be able to explain you
Yeah, sure, Praveen.
further. Okay. So this is all about the API that we wanted to talk about in terms of Playwright. And now we'll try to understand what is page object, or how do we design the page object model. So as the name itself says that the page object, that means it is saying that page object in the sense we will be able to take care of the single one by one page at a time, right? So what is page object is basically in any of the application, there will be a lot of pages, right? There will be a lot of pages involved. When we say like pages, let's say you launch an application, and that will be one of a page where we'll see the login. So this is known as one of a page, which is like login page. After logging into the application, we'll have some other pages, which is in terms of this particular application, we have home. This is a dashboard page or home page, we can say. If you click on this home page, it will take us to this page itself. So we can either select dashboard page or home page. Then we have a orders page. Then we have a cart page, and then we can click on the sign out. So in general, what happens is whenever we have to organize the test cases, we will organize in this way. One, all the login page test cases will go inside a login page. All the home page test cases will go inside a home page. All the orders related test cases, whatever that we see and whatever we have to write the test cases on this particular page, will go inside orders page. If there are any test case that we have to write for the cart page, all the test cases will go inside this particular page, and then sign out can go anywhere because that is not a page, that is just a button. Okay. So in general, what happened in the object page object model is it is one of a design pattern. That means designing the framework, right? So how do we design is we will, in terms of page object model, I'll create a diagram for you people today, and then we'll provide you the diagram in the next session. But in general, what happens is we will create a separate class for each and every pages that we have. There will be a page layer. This basically have, let's get it over here. So in terms of page object model, let's say if we have 4 page, which is like login page, then other we have a dashboard page. Next we have a card page, orders page. So let's say if you have these pages, right, and we have order summary pages as well. Let's say if we have these pages inside our application example, then this login page will be one of a page, dashboard page will be another page, card page will be another, and so on. So how do we write in terms of the page object model is, there will be 2 layer. Whenever we go for page object model, there will be a 2 layer. What are the layer? One is page layer and other is test layer. That means just- that means whenever we write here in terms of this pages, if you see, we have written all the locators directly inside the page, all the methods directly inside the page. Whatever the action we had to do, we have written inside the page itself. So everything we can see, this is inside one particular page where we have written the locators. We have also used the methods that we wanted to use from the Playwright and so on, right? In the page object model, this page layer says that I'll only accept the locators and methods that we have to use. Okay, so method in the sense, let's say if we have to log in into the application, we will write all the locators inside the login page. Example, let's say if you have to test the login functionality, so that will go inside a login page and we'll be writing the locators and methods. So method will be, let's say a name as valid login. This valid login will take a credential, which is valid username and valid password. Then there will be again an invalid login. So whatever the methods, whatever the test case that we have to write, for that locators and methods, what is method? Method will basically be consisting of few of the test cases, few of the test step that we can reuse inside a, like that we can reuse in any of the pages or inside the pages multiple times. Okay, so method will be like this. Example, if we talk about how do we write a method is, method or function are same. So in JavaScript, if we are not using a class, then we have to write the method in this way. We can also write an anonymous function or method as well. And then let's say if we just have to print something, we can just print it out over here. So this is a method or function that we have written. So in the same way, whenever we write a method known as, let's say, valid login, here we can fill the username and password inside this particular application. Okay, and user password. So whatever we have to do by using like fill method, we can use it over here. Okay, so what we are trying to do inside a page layer is we're just trying to write a locator. So we'll be writing a locator for user email. We'll be writing a locator for user password, and that locator we can store inside a method. We can create a method which will be, why will we create a method? So that it will be reusable as well as reusable in the sense this login, valid login, or any of the method that we write will be can be utilized inside the other pages that will be creating going forward in our framework, can be utilized in other pages. That is why we use a method over here, right? So that, and also the maintenance part will be very easy. Whenever we write any of the code in terms of like modular, which is like inside a method, inside a function, the maintenance part will be very easy in terms of maintaining the framework. Because let's say if you have to change any of the value, as we are trying to write valid login once and then use it inside every function, every classes, there, let's say if there are any kind of change, we can directly go to this particular method and change, and it will be available inside all the pages wherever we are trying to use the valid login method. Okay, so that is why basically we write a function or method to make it more reusable, as well as maintenance will be very easy. Okay, so whenever we go to the page layer, inside the page layer, we only have to write locators and methods. Okay, so this locators and methods we have to write inside the page layer. Inside the page layer, we'll not be writing any test cases. We'll not be writing any assertion part inside the page layer. Okay, assertion means validation. Now there is another layer which is known as a test layer. So inside the test layer, we'll be writing only the pure test cases. Okay, pure test cases, and then the assertion. Assertion will go inside a test layer. So when we say like test cases or the complete test cases itself, here we'll be calling all the methods that it require to run our test cases. Example, valid login page, valid login, or whatever the method that we have to call from each and every, like one or other classes from the page layer, we can utilize by directly calling those methods utilizing the objects of the classes. Okay, so that will go inside a test layer. And the assertion. So what is meant by assertion is, so whenever we try to validate, with this order IDs, it's similar to this or not, wherever we use expect is known as an assertion, right? So that will go inside, those part will, like assertion part will go inside a test layer. Okay, so there will be mainly two layers, which will be, one will be like page layers and other will be a test layer. So inside the page layer, we'll only write the locators and methods. And inside the test layer, we write like the complete test cases and the validation, which is assertion. Okay, then we can write couple of more folders where one we can create it for data module. So data module is like to store the data, where we can store the data data in let's say a JSON format. The other we can like, we do not have to write in terms of like create an extent report or so on. We will be able to configure that inside the configuration file itself. That will also see at the time of generating the framework. So we do not have to go through there as we do in terms of um, Selenium, Selenium and Java. And then there can be another layers. But in terms of page layer, there will be mainly in terms of page object model. The main important things is page layer and test layer. Okay, if you have already worked on Selenium and Java, you might be familiar with writing a base page where you create everything inside a base page and that you can extend inside in other test cases as well. That we can also do in terms of Playwright page object model. But in general, we do not write like base page over here as we write in the Selenium and Java. What is base page? Like whatever the reusable function that will be usable inside all the methods. For example, how do we take this screenshot, right? So for that, we have to write a method in Selenium, and that we can utilize inside all the other pages. So that is one example to write those method inside a base page and then extend into the other page. Here we do not require those kind of things, but in general, if you want to address that base pages as well, we can also create in that way. The framework we can also create in that way by write a base page and then write a reusable function over there and then extend the base page to the test cases or the page classes and utilize all the properties or method that we will be writing. We'll see that in the going forward sessions as well. But main in terms of the page object model is there will be a two layer, which is like page layer, and then the test layer, and we have to separate it out. So that is where page object comes into picture, where we'll be creating each and every pages. For login page, we'll create one class. For dashboard page, we'll create one class. Card page, we'll create another class. Orders page, we'll create another card class. And the locators related to login page will go inside a login page itself. Locators related to dashboard page will go inside a dashboard page. Card page will go inside a card page, and so on. And the test cases related to login page will go inside a test layer of the login page. Inside the login page also, we'll create the same number of pages that will be creating inside the page layer. Okay. So this is all about like, the page object model. I'll provide you the diagram as well that you people can go through. But in general, like we'll discuss whatever we have discussed over here, we'll discuss the complete details in the same way. So we will be writing all the tests inside this particular test folder itself, because this is what we have given in terms of the Playwright config, that all the test case that we'll be writing will be available inside the test folders. Okay, and then we will create one more folder, will be known as, let's say, page objects. We'll just name it as a page objects. And inside this, we'll create all the page layer that we have discussed over here. One is like login page.js, dashboard page.js, card page.js, and so on. That we'll see, we'll go through in the session from the next session onwards. Okay. So from tomorrow onwards, we'll start building or developing the framework, and then we'll continue from there. Okay. So this will be like we have reached like nearing ending of the courses, where we'll discuss the framework. We'll discuss how can we generate the reports. Currently, we are trying to just generate a HTML report. We'll generate a few different reports, which will be like LEO reports. We'll see like LEO report is highly preferable in terms of the Playwright. And I've seen like most of the organization are going for LEO report itself instead of going for extent report. We'll generate those reports as well inside the reporter in the config file itself. We do not have to do any other things inside anywhere. We do not have to write any pages or any classes specifically. That will automatically generate for us whenever we write inside the configuration file. And other things also we'll see from the next session. We have one more thing that we have to discuss is two things that we have to discuss before starting the courses. One is like taking this screenshot. How do we take this screenshot of a page and specific element? We know that Playwright will automatically be able to handle whenever we write like screenshot on and video on, it will automatically be able to take the screenshot. But if you have to handle it manually, that also we can use. That we'll see first in the next session. And what is visual testing using the Playwright? So this also we'll see in terms of our framework. So how do we like do the visual testing? How do we take the screenshot of a page, or how do we take the screenshot of an element? We'll see the visual testing. What is visual testing is? I'll just take a couple of minutes. The visual testing, it says that, let's say if you are on the login page, you see every visualization like pixel by pixel. We'll not be able to validate whether, like, let's say if there are any kind of changes in the login page, and we have to check whether is there any difference from the earlier that we had like login page. So it basically we have to validate in terms of pixel as well, like whether the pixel is entirely similar than the other times. Is there any text have been changed over here? Any kind of validation, that is known as visual testing. That means we are just visualizing the page and we are saying that whether it is correctly matching with the previous version or not. So those kind of testing we can also do using the Playwright. That we'll see in the next session. And then we'll go ahead with, writing the frameworks. Then we'll take the data from few of the files, which is like JSON. Most of the time we'll take the file data from JSON, but we'll see other file as well. And then from there, we'll try to generate the reports. We'll have a Cucumber framework as well. And then we'll wrap up the courses from there. Okay, so that is it in terms of like today's session, and we'll continue in the next.